Pedophile inmates like this one are chewed up and spit out by inmates like this one. This inmate claims he killed 2 pedophiles in prison in California, and he's proud of it. Now, you can call them chesters, molesters, tree jumpers, small eyes, wide eyes, chomos, whatever you want to call them. Pedophiles are the lowest thing in prison. On the food chain, the pedophile is at its lowest. Hi, I'm Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe if you like this video. I was asked the other day a very common question, and I think most people know the answer. They just like to ask it to see what other people think that have worked in prisons, and I want to hear what you think. I was asked, are pedophiles really the lowest on the food chain, and do they get harmed by other inmates, raped by other inmates, killed by other inmates, beaten by other inmates, used by other inmates for runners and all sorts of things? The answer is yes. Now, you're going to hear some people say, oh, it's not that bad. I was in prison. I'm a registered sex offender, and I made it through. Well, some are going to make it through without any problem. Maybe they're bigger, maybe they're stronger. But I'm going to tell you, don't let those tough guys fool you that are pedophiles. Pedophiles normally are scared in prison. Inmates sense fear, and they sense that these guys are pedophiles. And your meanest, cruelest inmate, way deep down inside that heart, most of the inmates actually have a care and concern for children. And they don't like these pedophiles any more than I do or you do. And they will take care of the pedophiles in prison. Yes, there's protective custody that the pedophiles can check into if they feel their life is in danger, and they do, many of them do. And, you know, in the jails, there's always a separate place for the pedophiles, the sex offenders. The jails always have a separate dorm for them, but when inmates, when they leave the jail and the pedophiles go to prison, they're not always separated in every prison in every state. They're put right out in the open population unless they can prove they're in danger or ask for protective custody in many cases. But, you know, inmates just can't stand the looks of a pedophile, the majority of inmates. And they will go after a pedophile and take care of business. So it is dangerous for any inmate in prison. In my opinion, it's super dangerous for pedophiles. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at how many pedophiles have been murdered. If you look up Catholic priests in prison, and I'm sorry that I have to use this as an example, don't mean any harm, but hey, if truth is truth, and that's what we're here to tell. There's been Catholic priests murdered in prison because they are pedophiles. They've been proven to be known pedophiles. And you say that inmates should not be able to know that another inmate is a pedophile. Well, that's true. The system is set up where nobody's supposed to talk about why an inmate is in there. If I'm a correctional officer, treat all inmates the same. It's none of my concern what the inmate is in prison for. Well, folks, that's the way it should be with the officers. But let me tell you what happens with the inmates. They know what inmates are in for. You can't hide it, because you're going to have family members on the outside that are going to look up personal information on jail sites and prison sites and inmate records, and they're going to find out why an inmate is in prison. So if an inmate calls a family member and says, hey, I don't like this guy over here, he looks like a chomo or a pedophile, check him out for me. Family member checks it out. No, they don't have to talk on the phone about it. They can talk about it at visitation. Family member comes back and says, man, you're right. This guy molested 200 children. That's what the heck he's in here for. Inmates can get the information they need. So don't be naive enough to think that our system is so good that we can protect pedophiles from the other inmates, protect the charges and keep their charges away from the other inmates. It doesn't take a staff member at the prison to tell an inmate why another inmate is in prison. The inmates and their family members can do their own investigation. We got the internet, right? I could look up anybody right now and find out why they're in prison, unless it's sealed by the courts. But even if it's sealed by the courts, they have ways of finding out, believe me. They can check with people in their hometown. Why was this person initially arrested? Never be naive and think that pedophiles are protected under rules and policy and procedures about their crime. It's just impossible to cover that up. Besides that, inmates can look at another inmate and know what's up. If you've been in and out of jail, in and out of prison for any amount of time, these inmates have learned. It's street smarts. It's common sense. It's looking at somebody, sizing them up. Just like you would do if a person was threatening you. You're sizing them up. Can I defend myself or do I need to run? You know, the inmates know how to size somebody up, and they can look at somebody and see. I mean, look at this picture. This is a pedophile that's on the loose right now. Law enforcement is looking for this person who was in a sex video with children. You know, this is what they look like. Let me give you an example. Unfortunately, the typical registered sex offender in Florida is white, middle-aged male, according to 73% of the registered sex offenders in Florida. So you take 73% of our registered sex offenders, and that's the description we get. I've had people argue with me. That's profiling, and you can't do that. No, I don't believe that they're all, that the majority is middle-aged white male. Well, it's true. I've been saying it for years. Records show it's the middle-aged white male. Sure, there's some other folks in there, but in Florida, 73% middle-aged white male. I'd like to add in there, it's not on here, a little overweight, a little plump, a little chubby. Does that picture remind you of anything? You know, profiling, if that's what you want to call it, fine. In life, that's the way it is. Truth is the truth. You know, in Florida alone, there's 73,004, last count, registered sex offenders. These are only the ones we know of, folks. There's so many more out there that haven't been caught yet. Can you imagine? Now we go to all 50 states. These people are dangerous. There's no cure. In my opinion, there's no cure. I've seen people, you know, put down, well, the prisons aren't providing them enough mental health care or psychological care to get them out of this situation. Let me tell you, when I was a probation officer and I had some of these sex offenders on my caseload, they wanted to get off of their 20, 30-year probation after 8 years. I denied it, but of course they went and got an attorney and took it to court. And as a probation officer, I stood there and said, Your Honor, I do not feel this person has completed enough probation, only 8 years of a 30-year probationary period. This is not enough. This is what the person did to these children. I don't want them to be on the streets free of supervision. And the judges in 99% of the cases would say, I agree with you. Some of them would even look and say, there's no cure for what you have, sir. Motion denied. You know, get mad all you want. I'm going to tick off about, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pedophiles with this video. I could care less. I could care less. They really, if it was my choice, they wouldn't be on probation, some of them. They'd still be in the slammer. That's me. Don't like anybody that harms children or animals. Don't like anybody that harms people in general, but harming children and animals is my pet peeve, and I don't like you. You need to be put away, put to sleep, castrated. Oh, by the way, Alabama has signed into law castration of sex offenders and child molesters. So here we go. Maybe we're starting something good here. So anyway, Pedophiles in prison don't have it easy. Any prisoner will probably tell you you have to sleep with one eye open all the time, but pedophiles need to sleep with both eyes open and their butt turned to the wall, because these inmates got something for them. And if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong right now. Tell me everything I said is false on here. Let me hear what you have to say about pedophiles in prison, what you think about pedophiles. Anyway, a person asked me to talk about it, and I did. You know, I'm not an expert psychologist on pedophilia. I'm not a psychologist or a doctor. My personal opinion is they can't be cured. Prove me wrong. Thank you, Gary York, True Prison Stories.